Hi guys, so today we're talking about shape manipulation. And basically what shape manipulation is just taking your basic shapes and editing them in such a way that you can either make them more organic or make them look more like your finished product. So it's pretty much fine tuning your shapes till you get your finished product. And so far I have taught you different theories based on the drawing. We've gone from line to basic shapes to spatial awareness to perspective to drawing shapes in three-dimensional space. So by now you should be able to draw to a certain extent. You should be able to draw these basic shapes, convert them to three-dimensional form, draw them in perspective, and with your knowledge of spatial awareness, stack a bunch of them on your page. We've also discussed a bit of blocking in and boxing in. So with that, you should be able to draw like simple house utensils in your house. So now we're going to take this to the next level and bring out the big guns. In addition to shape manipulation, we're also going to be discussing merging of shapes briefly in this episode. So the very first form of shape manipulation we're going to be talking about today is bending and twisting. It's pretty much when you take a shape and you bend and twist it as it suggests. So there are different ways you can bend and twist a shape, and there are limits to which you can bend and twist it. But the whole point is bending and twisting. This bending and twisting exercise is actually a very good way for studying the torso, like the Bini method. They are illustrated with the sphere and the pillow like shape on top. It's a very big one, especially for showing how hard or soft an object is. The next form of shape manipulation we're looking at is squishing and stretching. This is basically showing how an object reacts under force or tension. Or this method is actually used a lot in animation, the squish and stretch technique, to or follow through and all this recoil movements. A bouncing ball basically. So it's another important way you can manipulate your shapes. Then the next shape manipulation we're going to discuss is contour manipulation. What a contour is pretty much the outer boundaries, the shape of the outer boundaries of an object. In other words, you can say a contour makes the silhouette of the object. So manipulating the contour can really help you shape what your object is going to look like. Like for instance, we want to draw a horn. Now you can go from a tapered cylinder to a slightly more organic shape by changing the contour from a circle to a triangle. Then if you change it further, you can adapt it to make it look like the horn of a ram. Another big one is the manipulation of edges. Actually, a number of ways you can manipulate the edge of an object. You can bevel it, you can taper it, you can make it round. But the whole point of manipulating this form of manipulation is mostly very useful for if you are designing mechanical objects or things that are not man-made. So contour is best for organic, while edge manipulation is best for inorganic shapes. The next form of shape manipulation we're going to be discussing is tapering. Tapering is pretty much tuning off one end of the shape. And what tapering pretty much refers to, making like funneling out the shape, like making it look like a funnel. So you'll mostly see it in cubes and cylinders. You don't really see it in spheres because spheres have limited readable planes. So tapering is another big one. So next, what we are going to be discussing next is merging of shapes. So what is merging of shapes? Merging of shapes is basically what it says when you manipulate a shape in such a way that it's basically joining two or more shapes together. That's how it is. So there are different ways you can apply merging of shapes in your artwork. Learning to merge shapes is less of something you learn how to do. It's more like a thought process. It's just a thought process that guides how you are drawing. A lot of these things are thought processes. So, for instance, if I want to draw a hand now, the hand has its component parts. These shapes are manipulated, but yet they're still a little closer to the basic shapes. So I can just use the knowledge of merging shapes to join these shapes together and to give me the hand I'm looking for. So merging shapes it's something it's a method you use when when we start discussing mechanization. We discuss more about merging shapes. It's something you use when you're drawing something complex or something that has multiple parts that you cannot just group into one big shape. So now I want us to draw something in this video. I want us to find something and draw so that I'll show you guys my thought process when I'm drawing something. So in stage one of my drawing process, what I really do here is just the blocking in. I try to fit my entire drawing into like a general shape. Like here I fitted it into two boxes. I put the head in one box and I put the rest of the body and the panda into another box. Then I try to get things like how the proportions of the character, how tall it is. Like this figure now, it's about 4 head height tall, 4 times the length of the head. Then I try to figure out my proportions, the proportions of the panda to the man, and where the hand reaches and all that. So yeah, I'm not focusing on any details. Like I said before, I'm just using big shapes. So next, stage two, what I'm just doing here is fleshing out the character. I'm looking for guidelines and I'm adding some of the details like the color, the wrinkles in the clothes, and so on. The eyes of the panda too. The wrinkles gave me a little issue because they look very punchy, but I figured out a compromise. Then I found the pose of the bear and all that. So just generally, this is where I start to roughly sketching the details, but I don't make them in such a way that they are fixed because I may need to move them around because you don't tend to get the proportions right in your first go. Now the next stage is to just flesh out, add some more details to the character. Like if I look at the proportions and I'm okay with the proportions, I just add the guidelines and I start to add the facial features of what I'm drawing, the eyes, the nose and all that. So after I'm satisfied with the sketch to some level, I use my razor to clean it up. Then I start to ink with the ball pen. And this process is not necessarily tracing. I'm not just tracing the sketches. I'm making some micro adjustments to where I think adjustments need to be made. So as you can see, there's not really much that goes into drawing. If you have a basic understanding and you have a basic understanding of shapes and you have a process that works for you, you'll just be able to draw pretty much anything you want to draw. So next time we'll be discussing mechanization, when a more effective way to manipulate the shapes. But for this method that I just showed you now, you can see all you need is a basic understanding of the basic shapes and know how to get your proportions right, and you'll be able to draw anything you want to draw. Thank you. Bye bye.